Good morning, Hallowed family. This is After Dawn, the show where we sit down to have a cup of coffee with the cast, crew, and creators behind the Hallowed Studios productions. I am your humble host, Solomon, and we are talking today about Episode 7, Corner Office, where our intrepid envoy had the glory and wonder of meeting with the fourth and final and strongest John, and getting a little bit more of a lowdown on what exactly is going on with the unknown and with the save office as a whole. I personally really enjoyed the episode, being able to see everyone back together again, and Alfred dealing with the consequences of his own actions. But I'm not the only person here whose opinion matters. I am joined by two of our wonderful players, Jade and Gary.
Hello.
Hey.
Welcome back, both of you, to the show. For those of you who have decided to tune in for the first time on what seems like it could very well be the penultimate episode, odd choice, but you do you. For those of you who are here for the first time, we start the show by percolating a little bit with questions to our lovely guests about themselves. We drink our cups of coffee while discussing the events of the show and more about the characters, and then we get to spilling the tea with questions from the chat, the fans, other players, as well as opening the floor for myself to take on questions. Let's start with a question to Gary. Were you expecting Alfred to be the one of the group that got possessed or had to deal with intense unknown consequences?
No, of course not. I knew it was something that was going to happen, like, as a whole, like, we're going to deal with these sorts of things, but I didn't think, like, simply answering a voicemail in search of more clues would lead to Alfred getting possessed by 4 trans-dimensional creatures. So yeah, that was definitely it's definitely a lot and very interesting, and I thoroughly enjoy it.
Yeah, I was expecting it too. I was not expecting it to be Alfred. I was kind of expecting it to be Frankie.
Yeah, you would think so.
It to be Frankie.
Yeah, with the amount of things she does, you would think she'd be the one to fall into this sort of thing. But
yeah,
no.
Pointing a shotgun at one of the Johns, trying to bullshit Karen and stealing everyone's stuff, but it's Alfred that's the one that gets the possession.
Yep. I think Alfred just has canonically bad luck. He just keeps getting into situations that he himself hates.
He's really trying his best.
There's not enough caution to account for bad luck.
No, there is absolutely not.
Speaking of all the crazy shit that's been going on in the office, Jade, with everything that's been going on, how difficult has it been for you to keep in character in the Kayla mindset during all the hijinks? Or do you have moments where you slip out because you just have to laugh?
There are definitely quite a few moments where I just lose it because the people I'm with are very funny and very fun to be around. But I feel like for the most part, I'm pretty decent at staying in the right mindset, staying in character, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I've noticed that you've been able to stay in character fairly well, while other people might have to take a moment. So good on you. Here's another one for Gary. As the meme master of Hallowed Studios.
Is that my title now?
I say it is, and I think that other people would agree.
I humbly accept.
How has making memes for this game been compared to making memes for, say, Scion?
It's different for sure, because there are different themes, different plot lines, different stories going on, naturally, different characters. But in general, it's just like sometimes a moment will happen and like a template will pop in my head, like a common meme template you see all the time. I'm like, oh yeah, this fits perfectly. That's a good meme I can make out of it. And other times I have to kind of like sit there and think like, okay, what were some like funny things that happened and how can I make a meme out of it? And so the process is fairly similar. It's just the products that come out differently because they're vastly different shows. But because of that, they're both fun in their very own way.
Very fair. Here's a question. Here are some questions for both of you. We're going to start off with what has been your absolute favorite thing to happen to the Envoy throughout the season so far?
That is a good one.
That is definitely a good one. I think running into the spider researcher was very fun. I really enjoyed getting to meet his character and enjoyed the fact that Alfred ate some pocket shrimp, microwaved pocket shrimp,
We got no
to be
proof of
more
that.
specific.
There's no evidence whatsoever that ever happened.
I'm pretty sure it was directly said in an episode, but
No, that can't be it.
Gary's trying to gaslight us.
The audacity. On my show.
Sorry, I just can't turn it off. I don't know what to say. Having Lynn on was really fun. He did a fantastic job, and he was super fun to play with. And for me, I guess some of the favorite things that have happened to the Envoy are just like, I don't know. There's just been so much good stuff. I just think a lot of it has to do with like the pure shenanigans they end up in, or like just the very juxtaposed nature of certain things. Like one of my favorite things is that like both Kayla and Frank are like, yeah, Alfred, you're the leader, and he's like, no, I'm not. What are you talking about? And it just spiraled from there, and now he's like in the contract to be the next boss, and who knows how that's going to turn out.
He's the most of the group.
Yeah. Besides, the best leaders are the ones that don't want to be leaders.
That's true. It's interesting because the same thing kind of happened in Apotheosis with Oliver, where there was a moment between like him and Koda where they're talking about how like Oliver, if he were to step up, could be a leader as well. And it's the whole thing where like he comes from a lineage of kings, so he has to learn to be a king. And it's just super interesting because I don't think of myself as a leader all that well. I'm not very good at it. And so I tend to make characters who allow me to take a back seat a little bit. But it's interesting how in these past two games, I made characters where people are like, yeah, you could be in charge. And I'm like, I don't know how to do this, but I guess the character has to step up, or they're going to deny it, or let's see how it goes. So it's definitely fun to step out of my comfort zone like that.
I think that the best characters are the ones that make you step out of your comfort zone and like try to learn a little bit more about yourself and the character that even you weren't expecting.
Oh, for sure. And I've been playing with that with Alfred, where like as mentioned, like he's a very assertive individual. He makes a decision, he just kind of like goes through with it, or he makes a statement and he's very final about that statement. When I'm normally not, I like to rethink things, double check myself, go back on things if I feel that I was incorrect about it. But Alfred's not that way. He's very set in his ways. So it's definitely a step out of the box for me when it comes to portraying a character like that.
Fair enough. Here's one that might pertain a little bit to the pocket shrimp. What is the worst or dumbest case of food poisoning you have ever had or like seen?
Had or seen? I actually don't think I've ever gotten food poisoning before. Either I've just been very lucky, or my bowels are made of the stuff of champions. But I have. There was a situation that happened on my campus, my university campus, once, where like apparently like the entire no, it was back in high school. It was back in high school. There was a football banquet that happened. And apparently the food was undercooked, and like the entire team got food poisoning for it, which was fine because it was like an after season thing. So like there wasn't like a game coming up or anything. But I was in theater at the time, and I was like putting on a show or like directing a show that I had written for like an event. And one of my actors was on the football team, and he couldn't make it because he was sick. So I had to step in with like the script in hand and everything, and it went all right, but it was like a shock at the time where I was like, oh man, that sucks for him and for me.
Yeah, exactly.
Mine is not quite that intense, but I also don't think I've ever had food poisoning. Just don't think it's ever happened. But my friend over the summer, he went to the same Chinese takeout place 5 times, and every time he got food poisoning, but he kept going back. And I really just could not understand his reasoning.
Why would he keep going back?
It's so
don't
good
know.
though.
So this Kung Pao, it's good enough to crap my bowels out for 2 days. I'm telling you.
Yeah, to just crack the toilet bowl. For myself, it's just straight up any time I've ever been to Arby's. Every single time I've gone.
Oh
food
yeah,
poisoning from there.
absolutely.
Arby's is pretty bad.
Yeah.
Our Arby's is how you like gain acidic spit. You eat that and things happen inside you, and it's never a good result.
Mm-mm. So I got another one that sort of pertains to the overall sort of theme or genre of the show. What's your favorite horror comedy movie? Or if you don't have one that's specifically horror comedy, what's your favorite horror and or comedy?
That's a tough one because I'd have to think about it a bit. I want to say, on a more traditional sense, probably like the first Scream movie, just because I think that's like a classic. But in more like recent terms, I really enjoy the Guy Who Doesn't Like Musicals. That's a good show. It's a good musical, so I definitely one of those two.
I don't watch horror comedies all that often, but I did love the first and second Scream movies. Those were very fun. Best horror movie, though, is Coraline, hands down. I don't care if it was originally made for children. It is terrifying, and I love it.
Oh yeah, that movie's just straight up just really fucked up.
That's a part of like the major point though. Like during like the publishing process, it almost didn't get like made because, or like at least the book almost didn't get made because the publishers or the editors were like, "This is too scary for kids, dog." And it's like, well, why don't you read it to your daughter and see if it's too scary for her? And I think the story goes like the editor did, and she said like the daughter loved it and that it wasn't too scary. But like later on at like the movie premiere, the author met that daughter and said, "Hey, you're the reason this movie was made because you said it wasn't too scary." And the daughter was like, "No, it was absolutely terrifying. I just had to know what happened next."
Fair enough.
I just love that. It's so good.
Funny thing is, I said all that, and I've never seen or read either one. I just happen to know that bit of trivia.
You have to watch Coraline, though. I am demanding you watch it before Friday.
Before Friday? All right, we'll see. I got I got a busy schedule here. I'll see if I can squeeze it in.
All right, at least try your best.
I'll try my best.
Fair enough. For anyone wondering, my personal favorite horror comedy is Army of Darkness.
Oh, that's a good one as well. That's also a really good one. All of the Evil Dead movies are super great.
Yeah, the newer ones are good in their own way. They're just a lot more fucked up.
Yeah, they lead far more into the horror aspect. Meanwhile, by the time you get to Army of Darkness, it's like, okay, this is just goofy.
Yeah. Actually, no, it's not Army of Darkness. I think my favorite actually has to be Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah, that's a new one that came out, right?
Yeah, would recommend to anyone who likes horror movies.
I really liked that one.
Not seen it yet.
And now you've got 2 movies to watch before Friday.
I got 2 movies on the list.
What are your guys' opinions on Office-related movies or TV shows like Parks and Rec or The Office or like Office Space for movies or like Devil Wears Prada, that kind of thing?
I love Devil Wears Prada. It's such a fun film. I haven't watched too much of Parks and Recreation or The Office, but I do find them very fun as concepts, and the episodes I've watched I have really enjoyed.
I think they're very fun. There's a reason these shows are like so highly revered. It's because they connect to a very wide audience who like either relate to it or just find the portrayal to be particularly amusing and entertaining. And because of that, I like them as well. I've watched all The Office, I think at least twice, and it's a show I thoroughly enjoy. I've watched a majority of Parks and Rec. I don't think I've ever finished it, and it was a good show. I enjoyed that too. Office Space I've watched. I think that's a very good, fun movie that's really both portrays comedy well and pokes fun of like office bureaucracy in a very interesting way, or just like the way corporations work in general and how it's kind of ridiculous. I think it does that satire very well. Never seen The Devil Wears Prada though. I have not seen it.
You might need to add a third movie to your list, Gary.
By the end of this episode, I'm going to have like 12 movies I need to watch before Friday.
You just keep saying you haven't seen things. And
yeah, I need to just stop. I just got to just smile and nod at this point.
Just try to be the social chameleon. Just agree.
Okay.
Exactly.
Alrighty. I thought that would be a fun question to ask because we got a very visceral reaction from Termite when asked about that kind of thing.
Oh, really?
Not a fan.
Oh.
Interesting.
And here's another one for the more relating to this episode. What are your thoughts on like hard sci-fi concepts? Do you like them? Do you think that they're way too out there? Do you think they're overplayed? What do you think? Like beings of other dimensions or multiple universes, that kind of thing.
I think it's a very big, heavy topic that needs to be done well if you're going to take it seriously. But when it's done well and done well, I guess just when it's done well, it's very cool and comes across very cool. And so I really enjoy sci-fi and fantasy is like my bread and butter when it comes to like reading as well as like writing whenever I do it. And so those kind of concepts are really appealing and fun to me. I'll say. I can't speak for other people.
I pretty much completely agree. I really love the idea of like interdimensional beings and all that sort of fun sci-fi stuff, but I feel like there aren't many things that do it as well as I would like to see. So I think that so far on our show, we've been handling it pretty well, and I'm having a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, I really enjoy kind of trying to wrap my mind around like these beings that Scott has created for us, and like the analogies and mannerisms he does or provides in character to kind of explain the way they work. And I'm just like, oh, okay, yeah, so they got to be like, they're in one place, so they got to be in our dimension and then go back to their place, and I'll like allow them to move to a different place in their dimension. I kind of see that. Okay, yeah, sure. It's kind of like Paper Mario. All right.
You know, I hadn't thought of it like Paper Mario, but you're very correct.
Yeah, kind of.
Gotta like just slip through the bars because you're flat now.
True. Yeah, it's one of my favorite parts of that game is just being able to mess with being paper for traversal, like making yourself a paper airplane.
Yeah.
All right, I think it's time we go ahead and start drinking our cups. We'll start with a question for Gary. Are you enjoying having the extra-dimensional brain friend for Alfred and letting it like make his powers do weird things? And is Alfred enjoying it, aside from, obviously knowing it's a threat?
I love it. I love it so much, even though I am very much aware that it's a very evil collection of creatures that mean me no good. I'm a little bit disappointed that it's in Alfred's best interest to not use them more, because I would love to see what else they're like capable of doing for him, because Scott mentioned like a list of powers that they have and stuff, so I was like, oh, I want to use those. But to Alfred, he does acknowledge what his group's saying, where it's like, hey, this isn't a good idea, so stop. And he's like, okay, fine. But he also kind of sees it as he keeps mentioning, like a mutually beneficial relationship where it's like, hey, you don't have a host if I die, so might as well do things for me to help me stay alive so that we can both work together here. And so that's kind of how he sees it. He's not fond of having unknowns in his body, but as of right now, he knows he can't get rid of them, so might as well use that as like an advantage for him. And that's kind of where Alfred's head's at, because he's very pragmatic like that.
I'm generally the same way. It's like I love having this, but it's like, but should you use it? I love having that sort of like internal struggle. Jade, what's it like being the kind of the normal one of the group, the straight person with Frankie stealing things, Amy setting things on fire, Alfred's getting all buddy-buddy with extra-dimensional beings. What's it like being the one that's just kind of normal comparatively?
I love it. I find it so fun. Honestly, I've played, like, the straight man, whatever you want to call it, and quite a few, like, groups and games I've been in, just because it's so much fun to see all of the chaos going on around you and try to figure out how to act like a semi-normal person. It's so enjoyable, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, it's great. I feel like the straight man role does not get enough respect that it deserves because so many of the other things going on around them would not be funny if it wasn't for that, like, grounded person being like, hey, what the fuck?
Yeah,
Exactly.
You need that juxtaposition. You need that juxtaposition of comedy for it to really, hit the ground running.
It's
That's why one of my favorite things from recent television is the TV adaptation of Preacher. Just having this Irish vampire who's lived for hundreds of years, and yet he's the straight man. Because he's just like talking to these angelic beings. He's like, we need to get to this like Nephilim, and get it into its vessel. And he just points to, like, because it lives in a coffee can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Preacher, that's a good one for sure.
I have not seen that one, but I will add it to the list.
Thank goodness. Wasn't me.
A little bit of payback for Gary there. Here's another one for Jade. Were you expecting to be able to use paperwork to bind an extra-dimensional being?
I was not, but I love it. Using paperwork to, like, bind this, like, all-powerful creature is so exciting. Like, it's kind of like a contract with the devil, but you get to be the one that writes the contract, so it's good on your side, right?
Yeah, and it was funny, too, because I was like, okay, we're going to write this contract, but, like, they're beings from an extra dimension. Why would they care about, like, our little earthling contract? And then he, like, goes, like, oh, yeah, but in, like, the celestial courts or whatever he said, contracts are, like, super important. They're, like, super binding. And I was like, oh, okay, great, awesome. We'll take it.
Paperwork is important in every dimension, Gary.
Yeah.
You should have asked him to do it in triplicate.
I think that came up when we were just like, God, no, please. We're so tired of triplicate.
Oh, always fun to have the unexpected strengths come in to save the day. So now that we have this contract in place, Gary, does Alfred still want to try to find some way to get rid of the extra-dimensional being?
Yeah, he would prefer not to have unknowns inside of him. For him, like, as far as he's willing to go is really, like, having possession of the art, because to him, at least, that is, like, a self-contained thing that isn't inherently evil or anything of the sort. So he has, like, full autonomy and control over it. But these, like, 4 beings within him, he is aware that, like, the only reason he still has control over his body is because they're fighting each other for control over his body. So he really does not want to keep them inside of him. He'd rather have them leave as soon as possible.
I suppose I can understand that, especially if they tried to turn him into a zombie. That would be just
that would be hell for Alfred.
Yeah. It's like I'll end myself. It's like, we'll bring it back as a zombie, and then that would just send his soul spiraling out.
A large portion of why Alfred kind of, like, threatened to kill himself as, like, a leg up on the enemy was because, like, to him it smells a bit too much like being a zombie when it comes to having your body stolen and you're trapped within it, unable to, like, have any control of your actions or movements or anything anymore. To him, that sounds a lot like zombification, and he's not about that. So he's like, yeah, I'll just kill myself.
Everything keeps coming back to zombies.
Yeah, no. Alfred's got a thing about zombies.
I can tell.
It all comes back to zombies.
It all comes back to zombies.
So, aside from John straight up saying that that those extra-dimensional beings were his children, that they are not exactly fans of yours, would you have thought about letting the extra-dimensional beings stay, or was that just always going to be a nope, got to get rid of them eventually?
First, it was kind of like, well, maybe, because when he had that like conversation with him, it's just kind of like, yeah, we just want to be free. We just want to live our lives. And it's kind of like, okay, yeah, I can respect that. Like, we can work something out where I can eventually like get you out of my body and you can have your own body and go do things. Until then, we can have like this give and take relationship. But then he kind of like got more explained to him and realized, oh, you want the freedom to live your life in my body. No, we can't do that. Sorry.
Yeah, it's fair enough. So, Jade, I know that you said that you like playing the straight man, that you like just having the role of someone who kind of keeps things grounded. Have you ever thought about what Kayla would do if she had to end up being the one doing something completely out of left field or wacky to help out the envoy?
That's a good question. I feel like she would do what it takes to help out the group, but I don't think she would resort to anything like super illegal or super violent, but I think she would do what she could. Like, for example, in the first episode, she went ahead and signed that paper for Frankie, even though they didn't actually have the approval. Like, that sort of thing.
Fair enough.
That's what you meant by the question.
Yeah, generally. So we have had our cups. I think let's go ahead and get to where we're spilling the tea. This section is more free-form with questions tailored towards what the fuck moments of the episode, controversies, rumors, hints of love interests, all of that kind of thing. In this section, we invite our guests to ask each other any pressing, hard questions they have for one another, or to myself as the interviewer. Let's go ahead and start off with another question to Gary. Would Alfred have really offed himself to assure mutual destruction of the extra-dimensional being within him?
That's a good question, and that's one that I don't really know the answer to, and I don't think Alfred really knows the answer to either. He probably tells himself that he absolutely would, but I don't think he would actually know until the moment happened.
It's got to be a split-second decision, not something you really think on, huh?
Yeah. Like Alfred's Alfred, so he's telling himself like, yeah, I would absolutely do this. It's finally a way out of like how much I just hate everything all the time. But then like the moment would arrive, and who knows if he would actually go through it, because he tells himself a lot of things, but internally, does he believe it? Probably not. At least for some things.
What you say and what you mean versus what you believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got one for Jade. Is Kayla ever going to get on Frankie for taking things like from the office and including taking things from the rest of the envoy?
I feel like she'll get onto her the same way she got onto her about the gun. Like, we don't steal things from the office. Like, we're gonna stop doing that, okay? Like, just kind of gently talking to her, like, almost like she's a kid. Like, don't do that, please. Let's not.
How about we don't? Remember, we discussed this.
We said that wasn't something we were doing today, okay? We're not going to shoot our boss. That goes for you too, Alfred.
Well.
I mean, a little light on that front, aren't we?
Takes more than gentle parenting to get Alfred to not do something if he decides to.
You know, that's fair.
That's very fair, honestly.
Gary, what's been your favorite episode so far?
My favorite episode. I almost want to say the one I wasn't there for, strictly because of like the game chat as it was going on while I was just kind of hanging out in my hotel room, because I was just like, oh man, what is happening without me there? Oh boy, oh no. And I went back and watched the episode later, and I was like, oh geez, I could have prevented so much of this just by being there. Oh man. But in a sense, I think that's what makes it even better, is because like without Alfred there to be a bit of a stick up the ass, things just happen and things go down, and it was beautiful. That's the answer I almost want to give. The one I'm actually gonna give is I'm gonna go with the one after Alfred picks up the message, so the one where we had Lynn and everything, because I think that was a good one. That one had like a lot of fun bits in it. It's where the pocket shrimp surfaced up. We had the amazing SPC of Darius, and just a lot of cool things happened. We had to continue dealing with a lot of things that had gone down, and so yeah, I'd say that's my favorite episode. What about you though? What's yours?
Honestly, I agree. That is also my favorite episode. I also really liked the one directly before that with all of the puzzles and stuff. That was very fun to me.
That was also a good time.
I also loved the musical theater episode, even though I could not be there because I was in an actual theater. But, you know, it was fun.
It was.
I love anything theater related, pretty much.
Alfred hated it, but I was like, oh yeah, this is great.
Solomon, do you have a favorite episode?
Yes, actually, my favorite episode, I honestly might be kind of a cop out, but I like the first episode the most. I just liked getting to see the envoy back in the office after hearing them talk so much about the office during the one shot they were part of. And I also just really loved setting the tone for Alfred's hatred of work, with anytime he would look at the clock, it would just be barely any time has passed. And his visceral reaction of such.
Just like, is it almost 5 yet? It is noon. Fuck.
Damn it. Because I have felt that so hard so many times.
You know, it's probably like almost 4 o'clock now on August 25th or whatever day it is.
Yeah, we could be in the middle of like that portal ritual or whatever is about to happen, and something pivotal is about to happen, but if it like chimes 5 o'clock, Albert's like, yep, I'm going home.
That's me done. I'm clocking out. Bye.
Clocking out. Deal with it Monday. It's like, Alfred, we need you here right now. It's like, well, I'm not on the job anymore, so sucks to suck.
My contract is 9 to 5. I will not be coming in before 9 or staying after 5.
Pretty much. Right on key there, yeah.
Alrighty, I have a slightly more serious question for Gary. This is a question I'd asked Jade a few episodes back. Do you see Alfred making it out of all of this alive, or do you see that, or do you sort of expect casualties to come in sooner or later?
Ooh, that's a good one. I certainly would like to see him make it out alive. He is my character after all, but anything could happen, and any way the story goes, I'm all for. If he doesn't, then I'm sure it'll be in a very cool thematic way. If he does, then I'm just excited to see how Alfred will shake up as a boss, assuming that contract goes through, because I imagine Alfred would like have a lot of changes he would like to make, because there's a lot of things about the office that he's like, why is this here? This is stupid. We're changing this now. So yeah, we'll have to just wait and see, but I'm down for any way something might shake out.
I really want Alfred to stay along long enough to become our boss. Just mainly because he will be the leader that he is so desperately trying to not be.
Yeah.
Become the thing he hates most, the one asking for reports in triplicate.
Yeah, like if we have a second season, just next season it opens up with Alfred just being like, look, Kayla, I need the report now. I know you have other things going on, but this thing has to be filed and yada yada. It's like, Alfred, who are you now? It's like, I don't know anymore.
Alfred, how have you betrayed us?
You made me this way. Oh God! If Alfred does become the boss, would he still work to work for the unknown in the office, or would there be a purge of extreme levels?
I think it was part of like the contract that we wrote up, where they're like, there's going to be like a vetting process afterwards to see like how helpful each unknown actually has been to the office and like what their actual motivations and stuff are. And if it seems fairly benign, then he'll be like, fine, you can stick around. But if he doesn't like the look of just like one of them, it's like, all right, get him in containment or just off him completely. I don't care which one. They're out of here. Actually, I think the terms was like if they don't pass the vetting process, it's just like they get a grace period where they get to like leave the office and run off. But like once the grace period ends, if we ever run into you again, it's game on.
Fair enough. What are your thoughts on the intern having become part of the becoming part of the envoy? At least according to what the Warfan's plans were.
I personally, Jade, love it. I feel like Kayla is very like angry about it, but she's not gonna show it because she's like, I need to remain at least kind of professional, even though I really, really don't want an unknown to be part of the envoy.
Yeah, I'm not about it either, but like we seem to be in a little bit of a bind, so it's kind of like, well, we can't purge them all right now, so we might need to be, careful about it. And if what was said was true, that they make our jobs really easy for us or make it far less difficult than they normally would be, then, well, maybe we hear them out. Maybe.
Fair enough. I actually have another question for Kayla. If something were to happen to Karen, would Kayla take her place? Because she seemed to be very keen on doing that kind of work on the paperwork and keeping everyone in line, keeping an eye on everyone.
Kayla is fine with doing her own paperwork, but she would not go into HR. That is like off limits. She could not. She's like a math person. She doesn't want to have to deal with people every single day. Like, that's a lot.
Fair enough. As a math person, do you think she would ever try to complete the equations brought in from the extra dimensional beings?
Oh, absolutely. She is currently waiting until she can get away from the rest of the envoy so that she can start working on it.
Hey, Gary, what do you think about that?
I would certainly like to see Kayla try. I'm curious to see where that would go. As far as Albert's concerned, it's just kind of like, yeah, no, this is miles above me. Not worth it. But if Kayla wants to give it a shot, I would be delighted to see where that goes.
It's math. You gotta do it.
You gotta do the math.
It's extra dimensional math.
That makes it even more exciting.
I think that might be the first time anyone's ever said math is exciting.
Math is very fun, I'm saying as Jade. I love math. It's great.
Fair enough. I got another one for Gary.
Oh.
If anything, if the unknown start to possess or try to take over anyone else in the envoy, would Alfred put them down?
Oh, that's a good question. I think he'd say he would, but there wouldn't be that like sense of who knows when the time came. He just straight up would not. He might say that he would, but even he himself knows that it just wouldn't happen. When it comes to himself, he might do it, but for another member of the envoy, it just, yeah, no. He wouldn't be able to bring himself to do it.
What about Kayla? Would Kayla do the hard thing to prevent one of the envoy from dealing damage to the normal world?
I don't think she'd be able to. She would probably, like, kind of be relying on the rest of the envoy to take care of it, like, hoping that they'd do it, but I don't think she'd be able to do it herself, and then no one in the envoy would probably be able to do it, so it would just wreak havoc, make chaos.
Bunch of softies in this envoy.
Killing a friend is stressful.
Yeah.
To say the least.
Ask Frankie and Amy, they probably do it.
Okay, yeah, Amy'd probably do it.
I mean, Amy's already willing to just burn the entire place down with the people inside, so.
That is true.
She just wants to commit a few felonies. It's fine.
A few
We've all
small
done
felonies.
it. We've all done it.
Have we?
Probably. I don't know. Why are you grilling me about that?
Do you two have any more questions for each other or me or for any of the other envoy? Because I can take notes to ask questions later.
I think we should overturn that question to them, that if anyone else in the envoy got truly possessed and lost their autonomy, would they do the hard thing and off them?
I agree.
I think that's a question we should pass on to them.
Yeah, I think everyone should answer that.
I think it's going to be like after the fact at that point, but still a good question. And for who knows, based on what might happen next episode, it might already be answered for us, but
maybe there will be a season 2. Who knows?
Maybe. But other than that, I got nothing. I got nothing else on my noggin.
I do not have anything either.
Alrighty then. Then we will go ahead and wrap up the episode there. Thank you both so much for sitting down to have this talk with me. Always a pleasure.
Thanks for having us. It is a pleasure to be here.
And I would like to thank our wonderful listeners for listening. These episodes are dropped Thursdays at noon for the $5 plus tier on Patreon. They're released to the public 1 month later, so please think about subscribing so we can keep up to date with your talk news for Hallowed Haven Studios. I'm Solomon, and goodbye.